is this the best iPad for video editing? So a couple of months ago, I bought the 6th generation iPad mini with the hopes that I'd be able to take it anywhere and edit video on the go. Now that they've given it USB-C and the A15 Bionic chip, I thought it was more than capable to edit the footage that I shoot. Now mainly I'm shooting on the Sony a7C and the DJI Mavic Air 2. So the most it would have to put up with are 4K XAVCS files from the Sony and 4K 60 from the Mavic Air 2. And I have to say, I've been thoroughly impressed so far. But this isn't an idea I've had recently. I had it about a year ago, but with the iPad Pro 12.9-inch M1, which is an absolute powerhouse. Now the problem with the iPad Pro 12.9-inch M1 is that it is actually quite cumbersome. Does that make sense? I could quite happily sit here like this, holding this iPad in my hands and edit no problem for hours on end. The same cannot be said for this. It feels like I'm literally holding a laptop up in front of me, and it's not a comfortable way to work. And as a result, the iPad Pro has literally stayed by my bedside for most of its time with me, and I occasionally watch Netflix on it. The iPad mini, on the other hand, I take everywhere with me because it will literally fit in my pocket, sort of. And what you think you might be lacking in power doesn't really exist. The iPad mini 6th generation is plenty quick enough to edit the kind of video that I work on. And I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to ask me next. Surely, for video editing, you want a big screen. Surely the bigger the better. Well, I don't know about you, but when I buy a new phone, I always go for the biggest and best screen. And at first it feels massive. You're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this screen? And the next day it just kind of feels normal. And that's exactly what happened with me with the iPad mini. Sure, when I first started using it, it did feel a bit small, but after a couple of days of playing around with it, it just started feeling like the new normal. Sure, when you jump between the iPad mini and the iPad Pro 12.9-inch, you're gonna see a big difference. But if you're always using a device this big to edit your videos, it's not really an issue. The only thing is it's a little bit more fiddly. And that's where I definitely recommend using an Apple Pencil. The idea behind me wanting to get an iPad that I can edit on the go stems from us shooting weddings all the time. And generally what we'll do when we shoot weddings is produce a next day teaser, sometimes even a same day teaser. So when everyone else is enjoying the wedding breakfast, I can sit and edit the next day teaser on an iPad. And I've tried this with the 12.9-inch iPad Pro M1, and it's just not very good. It's perfectly powerful enough, but I just find it's not a very pleasant experience. Crouching over a cramped table in a restaurant, trying to hold this thing up and edit, or even with it flat on the table. And before you say it, I do have the portfolio case. Again, not the most ergonomic way to edit. It's just cumbersome. With this, I can literally edit anywhere. I could be sat down, I could be stood up, I could even be led down. And it's always a comfortable experience. Let's take a look now at actually editing some footage with this iPad. I'm gonna be using the drone footage that I shot on holiday. Like I said, it's 4K 60p. It's pretty stressful, and it's probably the most stressful thing that I'm ever gonna be throwing at this iPad. Although at some point I will be really putting this through its paces with some Blackmagic RAW footage or A7S III footage maybe. So what I've gone ahead and done is import all the footage that I shot whilst I was on holiday. We're just going to play with a few clips and we're going to add some music to it. My music's at the bottom, so we're just going to import that music, make sure that it plays, and immediately it plays. There's very little delay. I mean, you can expect the same kind of performance that you get out of your iPhone. If you've ever tried to edit video on an iPhone, you know how quick and smooth it is. So we're going to find our first clip. What's this one? It's me and my mate just stood on a cliff top. We can expand that and have a look at it as the drone flies away. We might as well use that clip, so we're just going to drop it into our timeline. And we did shoot this in 4K 60, like I said, so I'm just going to double tap it, go to our speed and bring that down to 50%. Press play. Again, we can double tap it in our timeline to view that full screen video. And we can scrub through our entire project. We can press play. There is very little delay. There's very little stutter. can zoom in and out of my timeline quite happily. Let's add another clip. Let's put that one in next. You can see we transition from, I mean, I'm showing you a very pleasant way to edit. There's not really any negatives about this. And it's so small that you could just pick it up, walk around with it, edit. You can just edit on the go, no problem whatsoever. Just accidentally locked it. So let's just put this through a little bit of a stress test. I'm going to put this on top of that clip and we're going to reduce the opacity of this if I can figure out how to do it. It's not something I've done yet. Blending? Probably in blending, there we go. So we're going to bring that opacity down to 50%. So we've got two 4K 60 files playing on top of one another. Absolutely no stutter whatsoever. Let's do it again. Let's add a third clip on top of it. And again, we're going to bring that opacity down to 50%. So now we've got 3 clips, 44%. It's close enough. This is 3 4K clips on top of each other. Playing in full screen. Not a problem. Let's add another one. Bring that in. We'll bring the opacity down again. Let's go even lower, 6%. So you can see this iPad does have a lot of power for the size of it. It just plays. I've never had a stutter. I've never had to render anything. It just plays beautifully. So what I'm going to do now is put on screen the video that I actually edited together whilst I was on holiday. I think this video is really a testament to how far technology has come over the years. I remember shooting a video on my Mavic Pro and then bringing it back to my computer and having to sit and render it, and it would take half an hour to render the footage, and then the footage that actually came out of it was a bit pants. And now here we are a few years later when you can get beautifully stabilized 4K 60 footage out of a drone, plug that drone then into an iPad, a tiny little iPad, and edit it together like this. It's just the future. It has to be. So I think that answers the question. Is the iPad mini the best iPad for video editing? Yes, it can be a little bit fiddly, but if you're using an Apple Pencil, then you shouldn't have any problems at all. Yes, it does lack the power of the more expensive iPad Pro, but if you're using it for relatively simple work, then that's not going to be an issue. And I've yet to find a situation where it actually struggles and I get frustrated with it. The main frustration I have is not knowing how to use LumaFusion quite as well as I'd like to. But with every video that I edit, I understand it a little bit more and I can put that into practice. Oh, and by the way, this whole video has been edited on that little iPad. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you again really soon.